Today we're going to be talking about history and how we teach it in our home without a curriculum. Hi guys, I'm Chantel and I blog over at Intentional Homeschooling. Today I wanted to continue my series kind of breaking down the different subjects and how we teach them in our home and our homeschool without using a curriculum. I have been doing this Friday. I've been posting extra videos on Fridays sharing this, but I thought this week I would just kind of like wrap it up, I think, with history today, and then science on Friday is my plan. If there are like sub-subjects that people would like me to talk about, like a little bit like nature study maybe, or geography or something like that, I can do those in the future as well. But yeah, I'm going to do Tuesday and Friday this week, and then I will just continue the Tuesday videos from then on after that. So for me, history was a subject I just really struggled with in school. It was so boring. I remember my one teacher for history, like really nice guy, like I really liked him, but all we did is we read pages out of the textbook, and he would, when it was his turn to read them, he would read them and he would like pace back and forth in the classroom and read it, and I just like remember trying to not fall asleep, trying to even understand what was going on. Some days we would have to read the subject on our own, and all I could think about was like, I want to be the first one done. I just want to get this done. And I read it quickly, but I didn't like comprehend what I was reading at all. And I have to admit, I love the idea of teaching history chronologically. And out of all the subjects, it would be the one that I would love to follow a curriculum for. But even though we've tried a few different curriculums over the years, it's just, I just know it doesn't work for my personality. I'm not good at sticking to something like that. I like change, and I kind of just like doing my own thing, even though on the other half I would really like to follow it. So if you're kind of in that same mode and, you know, struggling to follow a curriculum, then hopefully this video will be helpful for you. So like most of our homeschool, our biggest resource is just books. So I kind of have, like, I just really have books here to share with you. Although there are a few other things that we do other than books. Maybe I'll talk about those first so I don't forget. So there are a couple history YouTube channels and YouTube videos that we've watched in the past. I will maybe just write a blog post and share some of those different videos and different channels, because I'm not going to remember them all off the top of my head. But I do find there are a number of really good YouTube resources, so like completely free resources if we're interested in a certain topic in history, or, you know, just want to know more about history in general. That's a really good place for that. And then another non-bookish resource that I like is if we can go on a field trip and like actually see a place in history. Unfortunately, where we live, I feel like history is really boring. I mean, Canadian history in general is just not, like, it's a fairly new country. Not a lot has happened, especially we live in the prairies where, you know, people didn't settle till we only became a province in 1905. So there's not much here for history. But my dream would be to one day take my kids, you know, to Europe and, you know, actually like get to know the history by visiting different sites, or like Israel would be really cool or something like that. But you don't have to go that far. You can do local history quite easily, or if you want to do, you know, a little bit broader history and travel like outside your province or outside your state or whatever, and then find the history in the areas you're going to go to. That's a really good way to do it as well. Okay, now let's just get on to the books. One thing we really like is biographies done well. So for me, that generally means that we get books out of the Christian Heroes Then and Now series. For Christian biographies, we have listened to probably like 15 to 20 of these, and I've enjoyed all the ones that we have listened to. So they're obviously Christian biographies, but, you know, there's so much different history, like, because most of these are, you know, a couple hundred years old, their stories, and so there's no planes, and the topics that it brings up, like, well, why did it take them so long to travel to China or whatever. This has opened up a lot more conversations than just the general topic of the book, and I feel like the series is so well written. It keeps a child's attention, and mine as well. Yeah, so I really like these. Another good series is the Royal Diaries, and then we have Dear Canada. I know there's like Dear America as well in the States. These are, and there's a boys version. I didn't grab it, but we have I Am Canada, and I'm assuming there's a similar thing other places as well, and that is stories written from the perspective of boys, but the Dear Canada are girls' stories, so it's a girl's diary from that time. Obviously it's fiction, but this is an immigrant diary of Ivy Weatherall, and so this is a Saskatchewan diary from 1926, obviously when she immigrated somewhere. And I feel like they cover a lot of different places in Canada, and they cover a lot of different topics as well, events that have happened. I really enjoy this series. And then the Royal Diaries follow a particular woman in history. So this one is Anastasia. And yeah, I find like these are a really interesting way of telling history. I really like the benefits of historical fiction in general. I feel like it can be hard to find ones written well, but when I do find them written well, I love it if a story can inspire me or inspire my kids to want to know more about that time in history or that place in history and want to do more research because the book has done it so well. And then one thing I like to do is just look for resources wherever I go. So I found this book at the Dollarama, like, you know, earlier in the year, and it's hilarious histories. So it's 101 random facts about history that are kind of hilarious. Let's see if I can find a short one here. They're all kind of like 2 pages long. Okay, so here it's about Queen Elizabeth I, and it has like a page and a half about her. And then here it says, did you know? Elizabeth liked a bit of glamour. She wore thick white makeup that was a mixture of vinegar and lead. We now know that lead can cause a range of skin problems as well as blood poisoning, so it's best not to try this at home. So it takes like interesting history and it sprinkles that in there, but then it also like gives you a bit of humor to, I don't know, help it stick a little more. If kids are having fun and enjoying their learning, then everything sticks better and they can remember it longer. A series that I've read the first book for and would like to continue collecting the series, this is History Lives. So this is Peril and Peace, which is their first volume. These are church history books. So this first volume is Chronicles of the Ancient Church, and they have Chronicles of the Medieval Church, Reformation Church, Awakening Church, Modern Church. So I believe there's just the 5 volumes. And this one I found interesting, like I learned a lot, and yet, so it starts, what's the year on this? 3 BC. So there's obviously not a ton of information from that time period because we follow different people. Every chapter is a different person, or yeah, and so obviously they don't have a whole lot of documentation on these people, and so I'm curious as the series progresses if there's going to be more details, and if so, like, then these are just going to be amazing books, and yeah, I can't wait to buy more of these. Then kind of a general theme that you'll notice in those last few books is I really love Usborne. If their books weren't so expensive, I would just own them all, but they have like official different handbooks. So this one is Roman soldiers, so it talks a lot about different things Roman soldiers had to do back in the day, and you know, their weapons of attack and battle tricks, and it's just a really good informative guide told in such an interesting way that I think like these are really good for boys who are like more visual, you know, need that picture and humor. And it's also, I actually didn't grab, but there's another series that's called You Wouldn't Want to Be a, and I think we have like a Greek slave, and then it talks about all the horrors of being a Greek slave and the terrible things that they had to go through. And yeah, there's a series on that. We have a couple of those books, and I find them really interesting and like I said, really good for boys who like to laugh and like really, not really gory pictures, but like funny gory pictures, I guess, maybe. And it tells really gruesome history in a bit of a light way, so it's not like terrifying for children, but a lot of history is told in those books as well. Okay, so one that we have done before is Story of the World. Like I said, well, obviously because I'm doing this entire series here, I'm not good at following a curriculum. We have listened to Story of the World. I find, for me, audio works better. So I bought this book, but we also listened to it on audio, and we didn't even quite get it finished. I think we got pretty far. Susan Weisbauer does a really good job with this series. I feel like there's 4 volumes for history. So there's the ancient times, Middle Ages, I can't remember book 3, and then book 4 is like modern times. And chapters are really short. There's maps in here. It's told in an interesting way, I feel like, but it's just not something that we were very good with continuing. But I know a lot of families really like this and are better at sticking with things than we are. Back to Usborne. This is another series. Oh, this is Usborne, History of Britain. I really like all things UK and their history and their landscape and everything. So this is Anglo-Saxons and Vikings, and it just has tons of information on, you know, the Anglo-Saxons and Vikings, and this is about King Arthur and early monasteries. I like a lot of visual learning as well, so I feel like these books are really good for that. Different battles. So any Usborne historical resource that I can get my hands on, I'll often buy them at thrift stores if I find them. And I have like purchased a number of them new before because I think they're worth it, but they are quite costly. They add up, but they do a really good job, especially with their like European history since it's based out of the UK. Okay, I'll just show my last Usborne resource here. This is their See Inside London. One of my daughter's obsessions has always been Black Death. Any book that talks about Black Death, she really gravitates to. Anyway, so this one is London through the ages, really. So we got ancient London here, and there's different flaps, and it tells you information and like kind of shows you inside different things. So we got ancient London, so this is Middle Ages. There's Tudor times, and like, there you go, you can see inside. There's so many different flaps and so much information. Fire and Plague. And yeah, we really like all things Usborne, like I said, but anything that just, you know, captures children's attention, so lifting the flap, like they want to see what's underneath it and the information that's inside it, and that's a really good way to do it, I feel like. Oh, and then I've got a couple graphic novels here. So this series is Nathan Hale's Hazardous Tales series. This particular one is a World War II tale, Raid of No Return. So it's just a bit about World War II told in a graphic novel, and that's a really good way to keep kids' attention. And then this is the Thrifty Guide to Ancient Greece. They have Ancient Rome and the American Revolution. We own those ones as well. And so there's different things. There's information about Greek entertainment. This one doesn't have as much for like visual, but it is written in a really interesting way. So this would be like a really good thing to go through together, like, and you read it and your kids do something with their hands or something at the same time. Yeah. Another thing we have done a long time ago, and I think that we will do again in the nearish future, and that is make a timeline. So there's different ways of doing this. I know like some people do like a book of centuries, but like I said, I like the visual. So we have like a big roll of paper from IKEA, and what we had done in the past and what I would like to do again in the future is just put it on a wall, like a really long wall, and tape it up, and then mark off every like 100 years or so, and then start putting on all the different things that we know that happened in those different increments. And first of all, just put on what we know and show my kids how much history they actually know already. And then maybe start learning some things where we see there's some gaps. Find some interesting topics or events or people of interest during those times and keep learning that way. I feel like I took history in school, and by the time I graduated, I remembered like 0 of it. And I don't want that for my children. I want history to be interesting, not a boring subject, but something that captures their attention that they want to continue learning. And I think that the way we're doing it is working. They seem really interested. They want to research more on their own, read more historical fiction books on their own. Yeah, and so maybe one day we will be able to do a little bit more traveling and see more of the world and learn more about the world history while we're in it. But for the time being, we are studying it all while we're at home, and it's really fun to do, I feel like. If you have additional history resources that you guys love, I would love to hear about them. And thanks for watching another video, guys.